You're wasting your life. I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's most probably the truth. Are you making New Year's resolutions and you know that you won't stick to them? Are you planning to change the first of a new month or the Monday of a new week? Are you constantly envisioning that new version of yourself and then not being able to step into that person? This is a big problem in our society. We're not living for every single day, but we're living for the firsts, for the new beginnings, for the motivation and not for the drive. Life is not about Mondays or firsts, or about after retiring after 30 years, finally being able to sip cocktails on a lonely island. It's not about that, because those things won't make you happy in the long run. It's not about a moment. It's not about enjoying it. It's not about being really motivated and running to the gym a nice sunny afternoon and just sipping your green smoothie and just being motivated and it all being easy. That's not the way it is, not at all. The beauty of life happens in the moments where we experience the most pain. It's when we push through the last set of pull-ups. It's when we wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go on a run. It's when we revise for an important exam late in the evening. That's when the beauty happens, because that's when you actively have to face yourself and choose discomfort in the moment for comfort in the future. We are not living for this comfortable future. We are living for the journey. And oftentimes those moments where we experience the most pain and where we experience the fact that we can push through our pain barriers and we can go further than we thought that we ever could, that's the moments when the most beauty happens. And that's the moments, looking back, we are the happiest, because that's when you're truly alive. Imagine, when do you feel more alive? When you're graduating after years of college and it kind of feels surreal. You're like being applauded and yeah, you're happy, but aren't you happier? And aren't you feeling more alive when you push through? When you revise for that important exam, when you wrote that thesis, when you actually gave parts of yourself for that degree, when you actually sacrifice time? Aren't those moments that we actually remember as being beautiful looking back? Yeah, it's hard work, but it's also beautiful in its own way. So there's a big problem in our society. We are living for the Mondays, for the firsts. We're living for the motivation. We're living for the instant gratification. So how do we not waste another year, another month, or another week of our lives? How do we get out of this vicious circle of wanting to improve but not being able to because we can't stay committed? I got 3 steps for you today on how to do that. So first of all, start with yourself. We're always starting with ourselves because honestly, you are the most powerful resource you have. You are the most important thing in your life. You are the motor. You control your brain, or you don't, and it controls you. So the first step is to get control over your brain. How do you do that? Sit down by yourself in silence. We need to stop all the noise and really concentrate and focus on ourselves. And ask yourself, where do I waste my time? Look at your routine if you have one. If you don't have one, establish one at first, because that is the #1 factor why we're wasting time, not having a routine. But if you already have one, look at that routine and look at the habits you're performing every single day. And then see the weak spots in that routine. Look at where there's time that could be used more efficiently. What I used to do, I used to read Atomic Habits, and then it said in that book to like really map out everything you do in a day and then Look at the habits that you don't like and replace them with the ones that you would like to do, that are more aligned with that new version of yourself. So for example, if you wrote down on your piece of paper, oh, I spend 2 hours on social media every single day, take that line in a table, maybe make a table, that's pretty good. Like write the time you're performing that habit usually on the left, and then write the habit, the name of the habit, or a description of the habit on the right, and then make another column, and in that column write what you would like to do instead. For example, 2 hours of social media use replaced with 2 hours of going to the gym. And do that. The first time you're going to do this, you're not going to know exactly which habits you could replace and what habits are the right ones to replace the old ones with, because, you know, replacing that social media habit with going to the gym might not be the best option, because when are you usually on social media? When you're like feeling low and tired, and maybe that's not the right time to go to the gym, because then you won't perform very well. Maybe you should rather replace that with reading a book or something, doing something less physical, something where you can more, you know, relax. Because what is also really important is, why do you have that habit? Because we only have habits because they support us in some way. They have a function. They have a reason why they're there. You're not just performing them over and over again for fun. They have a job. They act in some way for you. So write down the habits that you do. Also mark those that are benefiting you, that you want to like keep doing, but especially those ones that you don't want to repeat over again. Take those and replace those, because most of the time when we're just telling us to quit something, for example, I want to quit smoking in 2023, it's really difficult. And that's not because you're not driven or anything, but if you don't have anything to replace that habit, then as soon as you're like in that old scenario, in that old context where you usually smoke, you'll get that cigarette and you'll start smoking because you don't have anything else to do. But when you tell yourself, every time that I want to smoke, I will instead grab a glass of water, drink that glass of water, and then do 10 push-ups or whatever. You know, that could be anything. If you have a really detailed idea of what you're going to do instead, that's perfect. That's amazing. And you're going to do that. Step number 2. Where do I waste my energy? A lot of the times we're wasting energy on people and scenarios that don't really benefit us in any way. They don't let us evolve. Sometimes people are even pushing you down. And this is a hard one, because we usually love the people and we like the people around us. Once you figure out your own life and you kind of know who you want to become, then you can start kind of looking at your circle around you and then taking action there. But you have to start with yourself. That is the first dimension you have to look at. Then we can step outside, look at our friends. Who is benefiting me? Who is not benefiting me? Who are good friends is the first question you have to ask yourself. Who do I need in my life? Now you might ask yourself, yeah, what is a good friend? A good friend is someone who you can share bad and good news with. Someone who elevates you, someone who inspires you. In my experience, it's always better to be a little fish in a big pond, because then you can compare yourself and you can grow. It's important not to be envious, but it's important to be inspired. And also, it's important that you can share your vision with others, that you can inspire others, because that's when we feel alive, when we can talk about our passions, when we can inspire and be inspired. That's the environment you grow in, and not some environment where you're scared to talk about your real interests because you're going to get made fun of. Not an environment where people are doing worse, performing worse than you, where you have to pick people up, where you have to act as their therapy friend, for instance. That's something I struggled with. I always used to give out advice to others, and I never really got to be supported I've never really got to share my problems or my wounds or things that I wanted to talk about were just not being brought up because it was all about them. And you don't need people like that. We're holding on to people because you think we need them. But once you start working on yourself, once you do that first step I told you about, perfect your routine and really look at what is benefiting you and what is not, you start seeing that your time is valuable and that you can't give it away to people who don't deserve it. You are valuable. And you're not just there to act as like some shoulder to cry on. You're a human being, and you're the most important human being in your life. And when there's someone that is sucking away your energy, by all means, let them go. As human beings, we are really keen on keeping relationships because that's the way that we used to survive in the past, having bonds and keeping those bonds, sticking together, not being alone. That's the way you survive. But in our modern society, we can choose who to be around. And sometimes it's easier to travel with less passengers. So really quit the people pleasing and also look at the obligations you have. If there's something you're doing all the time and you're just doing it in order to fit in, or for example, I used to like party smoke in order to fit in because all my friends would do it. And really look at that and think to yourself, is this aligned with the highest version of myself? And for me, it absolutely wasn't. Every part of me used to scream when I would take a cigarette and smoke it because it wasn't just against all my ideals, all my values, because I didn't want to hurt my body, but I did it to fit in. And those actions are the actions you need to stop. And maybe you also have to look at the people you're doing that actions for, because usually if you feel obliged to do something, the people around you push you to do that, and those kind of people you don't want in your life. Have people in your life who respect your boundaries, who elevate you, who inspire you, and who motivate you to be the best version of yourself. Step number 3, optimize. After your life and your friend circle is kind of cleared from all distractions and from all non-benefiting aspects, you have to perfect yourself, because this is also something that I think many people don't talk about. We say, oh, improve yourself, but what are you going to do once you have improved? You can't just hit a plateau because we're either evolving or we're moving backwards. There's nothing in between. So keep learning, keep optimizing, keep perfecting your routine. Learn. This is so important. Really look at science, for example, for sleep, for nutrition, for exercise. Read books. Watch YouTube channels that are actually like inspiring and where you have the feeling that they are actually, there is actually some evidence behind what the people are saying. Inform yourself about anything. Maybe you want to learn about investing, maybe you want to learn about politics, whatever. Do everything to keep learning and to keep your mind evolved, basically. Keep your mind in a place where it's open to new things, because there's nothing worse than closing off your mind. What is the message that you should take from this video? Consistency is always more important than perfection. And that is something that's really not being communicated in our society. On social media, there are these clean girl aesthetics or these grind aesthetics, and you think to yourself, wow, they're waking up every single day having their green smoothie and heading to the gym, and it all looks so perfect. They all have all that money and they're beautiful. Everything looks so perfect. They must be motivated every single day, but that's not the truth. We're human beings, and sometimes you will fall out of your routine. Sometimes you won't be able to perform those habits that you made for yourself. Sometimes you will fall back into old patterns, but that doesn't mean that you're back to that old version that you have to start from scratch. You've already made improvement. It's not about the goal, it's about the path in life. Train yourself, train your brain to enjoy the journey, to enjoy the rough patches, to enjoy the pain, and to see the beauty in pushing through pain barriers. And that is how you'll actually enjoy your life and how you won't waste another year, month, or week, or even minute of your life. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I see you guys in the next video. Bye.